This is our time. Elevate, elevate.
Good morning, folks. Hope doing well on this beautiful Thursday morning. Oh, man, there's a lot of news to cover today, and I hope you're doing all right, because, there's a lot of people feeling things this morning, and we're excited to talk about all of it. We obviously know the big news of the hour is the announcement that was made last night, or afternoon, depending where you were in the country, is that Pierre Poilievre has appeared and went on the Joe Rogan podcast, which will be dropping at some point. I'm hearing either later this afternoon or tomorrow, but I'm likely it's going to be today. So we'll see how this one goes, because it's there's a lot of emotions around this one, folks. A lot of different perspectives, and we'll get into all of those. But secondly, we're going to there's a story that just really blew up. Or actually, sorry, I shouldn't even say this. I'm misspeaking. A story got published yesterday that completely blows up the security clearance narrative. And, oh man, it's really making the liberals look bad. So that plus this Joe Rogan announcement is putting the liberals on their back foot a little bit, and not really knowing how to react, because they're at this point in time saying, holy crap, Poilievre's getting all this good press. There's not this negative reaction we were going to hope for. Also, the security clearance narrative isn't working. Mark Carney, please come back from vacation from Roma. We need some help over here. Stop eating the spaghetti and the pizza and come back home, because we need some help. We don't know what to do. So, we're going to be discussing that and so much more. Welcome to the Elevate Report. I'm your host, Josh. If you're getting value from today's episode, please smash the like button, for goodness sakes. YouTube is screwing me over 6 ways to Sunday, folks. No, I'm just kidding. As I said, things are changing, things are different, but every stinking morning, I'm looking at this live chat, being like, I didn't get a notification for this. I'm subscribed. I've hit the notification bell. I still don't get any notifications. This is BS. This sucks. I don't know what to do anymore. And I'll be quite frank with you, there's nothing you can do, unfortunately. This is the new YouTube, baby. This is how things operate. The rest of the heavy lifting is on me at this point. I have to put together a great show with great content in order for YouTube to be convinced to actually notify you. That's where this is at this point in time. You've done everything you can do, baby. Thank you so much for your support. The help means the world. You've done everything you can at this point. You like the show, you subscribed, you hit the notification bell. You've done everything you need to do, but YouTube's saying, the guy you subscribe to still isn't good enough for us to give you notifications about. That's the information. So I have to elevate my game, bring it to another level, make sure it satisfies what YouTube's trying to do, and then you'll get notifications again. So I'll leave it at that you've done everything you need to do, baby. Much love to you. The viewers are amazing. Wherever you're watching this, because I was getting comments yesterday. People were like, I'm watching this from the oil fields. I was like, whoa, that's way up north up there. Yeah, I'm in the mines right now. I was like, what is going on? People listen to this show in the most peculiar situations, in the most amazing and unique locations. And to that, I say, thank you. Quite honestly, thank you. That's insane for me to even think about. The chat is popping off this morning. I think the vibes are good. I'm feeling good. You're feeling good. Let's get going, baby. And let's have some fun. I know we got a super chat that's come in nice and early from Lazarus saying, watching the liberals and mainstream media scream about Pierre going on Rogan has been, a highlight of the week. You know he's doing something right when they're crying about it. Boom, shakalaka. And we're going to get into all of that. Stephen McLeod has become a member. Let's go, Stephen. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Elevate Faithful. Very happy to have all of you on right now. The chat is just popping off. Jessica's verified in the chat that the podcast comes on at 1 p.m. Eastern time today. So that will likely be a piece of my afternoon episode today. Likely. So looking forward to all of that. And then as well, Lazarus pops in again saying, unlike the mainstream media who jumps to cover for Carney and liberals, Rogan listens and Pierre can say what he wants to 50 million people in North America and around the world about what's wrong with Canada and how to fix it. And the bonus part too is the fact that about 10 million Canadians listen to Joe Rogan. That's another big one. So this is where we're at, folks. We're awesome. Things are going well. Let's get into some stuff today. So let's talk about what happened yesterday. So this is, this post goes up yesterday afternoon or late evening or early evening, late afternoon, depending where you are, or early afternoon, depending where you're in the country. Pierre Poilievre writes, fought for Canadian workers and Canadian interests on the world's biggest podcast. Thank you, Joe Rogan, for an amazing conversation. Let's get tariff-free trade. And this is the image that has been just wildfire all over the internet, right? Got the Canadian dumbbell. So when I saw this, I'll be honest with you folks, I was kind of, I was talking to Jasmine about this last night and talked to a couple other connections. There's like, Josh, this is awesome. What are your thoughts? And I was kind of like, cool. My head was like, my energy levels were like this, very even keeled. I'm like, I'm not too up. I'm not too down about this. It's okay. It's something that's positive. We'll see where this goes. And didn't really know what to think of it, if I'm being quite honest. Then I saw the reaction, because I thought the reaction was going to be all the typical stuff, right? Oh, he's, of course, he goes on a racist podcast, this white supremacist, all that stuff happens. And then I watched CTV's panel last night, and I was quite frankly stunned and taken aback by the reaction. And we'll play that a little bit here now. I'm sure you've seen these reactions already, but I do think they're important to go after. But let's go, before we hit the CTV reaction, let's hit what the typical reaction would be for the likes of, Patrick Bet-David, right? The man who just laid into Pierre in the last election about how he doesn't get in front of cameras. He's not going on media. Boom, 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 boom. Well, Patrick Bet-David's reaction to this is, well, as predicted. He should have done this 2 years ago, but better late than never. Conservative voices in Canada need a backbone. Stop being scared of the media and walking on eggshells. Start imposing your ideas every chance you get. This is a good sign of progress. And to that, I agree. This is the struggle that Conservatives have felt and have allowed themselves to feel for quite some time here in Canada. I'll tell you what I mean. Is Conservatives have allowed the Liberals, have allowed the media conglomerate to hem them in, to frame them how they want to be framed. And the Conservatives have gone along with it. And what I mean by that is the Conservatives don't want to be framed as racists. They don't want to be framed as misogynists and all the things that they get thrown at them, or the fact that they hate Canada. No one wants to be framed with those things. The problem is the Conservatives allowed the framing to stay there. And what they did is they tried to defend themselves. I'm not racist. No. I'm not misogynist. I love Canada. The problem was they were allowing the Liberals to set the parameters of the conversations and discussions they are going to have. So Conservatives just accepted those rules of engagement and tried to defend against those instead of saying, guess what? No one believes you saying racist anymore. Who cares? Shut up. We need to talk about this right now. How about the fact that we have this mass immigration problem that needs to be addressed? So shut up. Let's talk about this. I don't really care. And re-engaging and redefining the dialogue here in this country. That's what the Conservatives have needed to do, and they haven't done for quite some time, but they're starting to do it and have been doing it since the last election. And the Conservatives have realized that that's what needs to happen, because they shelled up like the Conservatives have typically done in the past several elections. Is they get into election season and Trudeau gets up there and says something crazy, and they're just like, oh yeah, or somebody from the Liberals say something crazy, and it's like, oh yeah. And now we're starting to see, finally they realize have done that time and time again in every election, and there's been a lack of courage moving forward. Since the last election, they learned that lesson, and they've been putting forward bold ideas. And yes, some would argue they need to be more bold, and I think they're moving in that direction. And I do agree. We need to keep pushing. I'm 100% on board with that. Just keep going. We want to see more boldness. But this is definitely a different party than what was running in the last election. I'll say that much. And even different from the party that was running into before the election was called. This is a different party that we're seeing. So there's a lot of conversations, of course, around Pierre Poilievre going on Joe Rogan during the election, right? And people saying, well, it should have happened last election. Yeah, he should have, but he didn't. So here we are. It goes back to something I think Daniel Smith says about the pipelines, was the best time to build a pipeline was 10 years ago. The next best time to build a pipeline is now. and that's how I feel about Pierre Poilievre right now, is the best time to go on Joe Rogan or the best time to make a serious stamp for yourself would have been last year. At this time last year, actually. But the next best time is now. And that's what he's doing. And I'll take it. I'll take for what we can get. So, as I said, when I was thinking about what was happening and seeing the reaction from so many, I was kind of drawn back by the reaction from CTV's front bench. And I'll say this. We'll play the first clip here. And this came from the former senior advisor to Minister François-Philippe Champagne. Liberal said this about this move. And I think this is very telling. And this is when I first got my attention on this issue.
As far as messaging from the opposition leader goes?
Well, you know what? I've been saying this for weeks, Vashi, that the biggest challenge that Pierre Poilievre faces right now is the fact that he's inaudible. I mean, forget about the floor crossers and all that stuff. The fact that he's just not in the conversation that Mark Carney is in has been a problem for him. He's inaudible. People are not, hearing him. And so to go on the Joe Rogan show, I have to say that's a great get for him because he needs every tribune that he can get in terms of getting his message across, especially talking to such a large audience. Mark Carney went on Stephen Colbert, if I remember, when he kicked off his campaign last year. The fact that Pierre Poilievre is going on Joe Rogan is only logical to me.
So again, that's a former senior advisor to François-Philippe Champagne saying this was good for Pierre, good for him. He should be going on these things. He's fighting shorthanded to a degree, so why not do this? I think this makes sense. This is going to get him in front of a larger audience. I think this is a good thing. And I'll be honest with you, throughout this whole panel, Sebastian Skamsky makes a very predictable statement because, well, he's conservative and thinks it's a great idea. But this was the one I was like, whoa. And for the most part, throughout this whole panel, they were in agreement saying, this is a good thing. Like, even Vashi's like, hey, good for him. This is good. But the thing that really put the wet blanket on the whole thing is what caught my attention the most was, we'll play here, and you've probably seen this clip already, but we'll play it through, is the reaction of Sharon Carr. Her reaction was peculiar to me. Because I figured like she would kind of given the typical liberal answer you'd expect from her of, yeah, not going to move much, but okay, good for him, like trying to maybe patronize him a little bit. We didn't even get that though. This is what we got from Sharon Carr, which I was kind of stunned by, and I'll tell you why I was stunned after we watch this.
It could be high gain, high risk. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but it's a risky environment. Well, it could be high gain, high risk. Yeah. But I think, listen, if the goal here was to get him in front of the most number of people to hear his message, Joe Rogan has 15.5 million followers on X. It's the most listened to podcast. But all of that being said, it is the same people that he is already that are his base. He's not expanding his circle of who he's coming to. And just to be clear, Joe Rogan isn't someone who has editorial standards. He is not a journalist. He's a podcaster and has constantly in the past been criticized for a lot of the misinformation he spreads. So if there was someone who can pull out a bit of controversy, I would say there's going to be a lot of ears and eyes on this podcast because, like Lee said, it's high risk. One small thing off, we know people like Donald Trump listen to this. The only thing that is his advantage is that he is not in government. He is the opposition leader. The president has previously kind of negatively spoken about Mr. Poilievre. So there is risk to his personal brand here. But if you were asking me, did he get in front of a whole new set of crowds? No, I already think he's pandering to the same listener group of the Joe Rogan style.
Well, we'll see. I think a lot of people listen to that podcast.
15 million plus.
So yeah. Okay. I got to leave it there.
So Sharon's kind of goes on this diatribe of, I don't know. We'll see. He's going to be talking to the same people. I don't think that's going to really do much for his brand. It's not going to move much. Like, it was just like such a wet blanket on the whole thing. And to be expected for sure. But the argument she made was incredibly weak. And that was the part that surprised me the most. I was expecting a better argument coming from Sharon, especially if you're going to get paid to go on CTV and talk about this stuff. I was expecting a better. If you were going to be the wet blanket on this, I was expecting a better criticism and a more nuanced criticism of the issue. Something I haven't thought about before. And quite frankly, I mean, to her credit, she did give me something that I didn't think she was going to say because it was so obvious and so obviously not true. Because Joe Rogan does have obviously a very huge reach, something to the degree of he's averaging 3 to 5 million views per episode he does, on top of, as I said, 20 million subscribers, this, that, the other, boom, boom, boom. But when you break down some of the math from what the data that's available, not only does he have a huge global audience, he reaches close to somewhere in the vicinity of 5 to 6 million Canadians per month. It's over 10. It's over 10% of our population he reaches. So to say that he's just talking to the same base is a very incoherent point. And I think Vashi was right here to correct her, saying, I don't know, man, that's a tough take. A lot of people listen to this, dude. And this goes back to the point I made on X last night, is this is the typical reaction we're seeing from the left on this issue is, well, it's not going to move the needle for voters, not going to move the needle for Canadians. And though I disagree with that notion, let's put that aside for a second. Why did Pierre Poilievre go on the podcast? Well, let's go back to what he wrote here. Fought for Canadian workers and Canadian interests on the world's biggest podcast. We currently have a prime minister who has written off our relationship with the United States, our biggest trading partner. Just said that's kind of done. Is showing no inclination he wants to restart things with CUSMA. We heard this from Greer of how far along Mexico is at this point. And Canada's just like nowhere near. And then to follow that up with, we talked about yesterday afternoon, JD Vance saying, we have an unfair relationship with Canada. I'm kind of done with it. And calling that out. And we have a prime minister that's doing zilch about it. And just letting it fester and letting it completely rot. And his argument and his comeback is typically, well, we have the best deal with them right now. Okay, guess what, Mark Carney? The best deal that you keep talking about and kind of leaning back on, which was originally the North America, which was NAFTA, the North America Free Trade Agreement, which then transitioned into CUSMA, which was renegotiated under the Trudeau government. You've done nothing. You've done nothing literally, there's no fingerprints of yours on any of those agreements. But review of our most crucial trade agreement is coming up in just a couple months, and you're showing no sign of dealing with it, which leads me to believe that you want this to disappear and you really want to cause as much pain to our country as possible. That's what that tells me. So we have the likes of Pierre Poilievre saying, I don't want to see that happen to my country because I know that it will have detrimental effects to us. So Mark Carney's going to go screw off in Rome and go on vacation and do these weird secret deals that's going to benefit him in Brookfield. Okay, he can go do that. I'm going to go act like a prime minister and I'm going to go speak for Canadians. This is like a very weak point for the Liberals right now. This is not good. And I'm not just saying this from a perspective of obviously I'm a conservative voter and want to see Poilievre do well. Because I'll tell you straight up, when I first saw this announcement yesterday, my first reaction was, okay, next. But it was the reaction from the Liberals, or their lack of reaction, or their lack of thoughtful criticism on this that caught me realizing, oh, shoot. They're scared. They don't know how to deal with this, which goes back to the point I made at the beginning of the show today. Is the Liberals, the way they keep beating the Conservatives is framing them in terms of, and by framing them is framing the conversation and framing them to defend their notion on if they're racist, misogynist, all that. This is one of the first times the Conservatives has said, you know what? We know what you're going to do and say. We're going to go on Joe Rogan. And they don't know how to react to that because the Conservative Party typically has never done that before. they're starting to show some backbone, saying, screw you, we're going to drive the conversation. We're going to take control. We're going to do what needs to be done for this country since you clearly don't care. And that's the point, is it's starting to become very clear. Liberals are scared. When you have a government that is trying to appeal to the Supreme Court on the decisions of the use of the invocation of the Emergencies Act, with something that should just die because they've clearly lost on this multiple times, that is the sign of a desperate government. The polls may say X, Y, and Z things. The shows may say this. However, what we're seeing by their behavior is they don't even believe those polls either. That's what this is telling me. And seeing the reaction of some, of kind of making very elementary criticisms that don't make sense and don't totally line up with the moment, tells me that we were counting on the conservatives to play within their own box, and now they're not. We don't know how to control them now. They're nervous. That's why they keep bringing up the security clearance BS, because that whole recycled argument is also falling. We'll get to that a little later here. But this is kind of where I'm quite frankly, I'm stunned. I was stunned. And stunned by in a good way, and shocked by what I'm seeing, and gave me something to think on and watch as we go forward here. And Reg says, I don't know. We aren't going into an election, though. I think the Liberals might not care because they know they are getting a manufactured majority. I disagree with that notion, actually, quite frankly, Reg. And I wish I could look forward to having you here in person tomorrow so we can have this discussion face to face, because I very much vehemently disagree with your point on that, actually. I would have believed that last week. I would have believed that. But seeing how this party's acting and reacting right now is not a part that shows to me that they don't care. It shows to me that they do care. And they're making some desperate moves right now that it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And this is what I'm saying is, for a party that's going to get a majority, for a party that's supposed to be in control, for a party that's literally has their hands on all the controls right now, and at least it looks like the conservatives' shoulders are on the mat. What the Liberals are doing right now doesn't indicate to me a party that feels like they're in control. Their actions are showing me that they feel like they're out of control. And that's why I'm confused. And that's why I want to keep pressing on this narrative that the Liberals are just got it. It's all figured out. They don't care. No. They clearly care. And I'm going to keep pressing on why do they care so much? Because the narrative they keep telling us is, don't even bother trying. It's over. But their actions show me a party they're acting as if they're acting like they were in the election now. Something that's very close and will be a huge fight. Something's weird happening. And so I very much disagree and reject that notion from Reg Manzer in the general chat today. Can't wait for him to text me about that tomorrow or today. All right. We move to super chats here, folks. Jay English, become a member. Let's go. Let's go. All right. Bandit249 Saw says, won the CTV panel. Who is the last lady and what is her problem? Nah, she isn't biased at all. No, I mean, I'll be straight with you. So that's Sharon Carr. She used to work as a staffer underneath Justin Trudeau. I believe that's what she worked to some degree in the Trudeau administration or government. So she is pretty clear she's not unbiased. And I think that's the issue I think this goes back to the issue of the mainstream media in general, where they claim to be the unbiased. They claim to be down the middle, and then they bring these people on who have opinions, and people kind of conflate the two. And to her point, she's never said she's not biased. Like, look at her background. She's clearly liberal through and through. and she's going to espouse the liberal ideology. So that's the lens you have to watch her in. And I guess that's the issue with watchers in general, is they just think everybody on the show is unbiased. So that's why they have the advantage. Liberals have the advantage with the mainstream at this point. But no, she's very, very much liberal through and through. And so she'll espouse liberal talking points every time. And that's why it was stunning to me that she didn't have something more creative to say to this. Because I was like, oh, if you guys are so in control, you know what's going on, I would have thought something better was going to be coming. So yeah, that's Sharon Carr for you. And she is going to have the typical liberal bias. And that's just, and that's okay. And people just should know that, and that's the lens you should watch her in and when you listen to her talk. HD Dave says, it would also be great for the conservatives for Joe Rogan to host Carney. Yeah, that would be awesome, dude. It would be iconic. So actually, Rav, who watches the show, he's from Buffalo. He posted on my my post yesterday saying next stop, he should go on Gavin Newsom's podcast. And I was like, dude, Poilievre going to Newsom's podcast would be electric. That would be something else. That would be interesting to me. Jay English says, because that would just melt every brain in Canada. It'd be insane. Jay, doing a massive podcast here in the US right now would be something. Left, right, centrist, all of them. It would. Carney's not doing it. It would, oh man, it would be interesting. Lazarus says, Sharon, whatever her name is, acts like Pierre is Carney, who all the time. Pierre is 20 plus year experienced politician who knows how to talk to people. Also, Rogan has already said he likes Pierre. It's true. That is true. And I believe it was Pete. I forget his last name. Anyway, he's a podcaster as well here in Canada. And he made the same statement where Poilievre is an incredibly experienced politician, is a very effective communicator. And I think that like him in that 3-hour context with Rogan is where he's going to thrive. Bandit 249 Saw says, I'm an independent here in America. I can assure her Rogan's base is not just conservatives. Yes. It's so spot on. It's not. Like, people don't realize that there is a left-wing contingent who listen to Rogan, whether you like it or not, because he's been painted a specific way by the media. I agree. Lazarus also says, Pierre is going to draw more viewers and listeners on all sides of the political spectrum, left, center, right, to hear what he has to say. It's going to be big, unlike Carney, who hasn't said anything. Yep. It's big. It's interesting. We'll see where this goes. Jilly Beans SK says liberals are going to need to buy Kleenex in bulk in order to watch that JRE episode. Reference Rachel Gilmore. Fair enough. I mean, it's funny. I don't know. I've been seeing a lot of those comments around floating about, liberal meltdown. I don't think we're going to get a meltdown from the liberals on this. I think we're going to get more Sharon Carrs, though. That's what I mean. It's like, I don't think people are going to be like, oh, it sucks, and just go full outrage, because I think they're even tired of being outraged all the time. But you're going to get like really weak, very weak arguments to this. And that's more so what's telling to me, is that they don't have anything to even fight on anymore and debate on, because they're so they're nothing. All they are is Trump. They're the Trump party now. Like, that's the liberals. They are the Trump party now. And they have nothing else to offer or criticize or debate over. They're fried, dude. And so once their grift is over, and it will be over, once those job numbers hit more and more and people start feeling more and more pain, it's GG's. Nylock says this: the problem with that is that a desperate government can get mean, especially if they know they are hated and have a majority for 3 years. Yep. I agree. It's going to get ugly. That's what makes me nervous. This is a point someone brought up on the show yesterday, is how ugly will it get? Well, because at this point, yes, the top cabinet, Carney himself, they get security. Low-level MPs don't get the security they get. And that makes me nervous, is if they do get desperate and they do start getting more nasty in how they treat Canadians, there's going to be a strong reaction to that. And I don't really, my concern's not really for the cabinet members or Carney. My concern is for lower level MPs who just are backbenchers and just want to be left alone and just try and do their jobs. They're the ones who are going to get the brunt of the heat if that happens. And that's what makes me nervous. Poke Chuck says, I feel Carney on vacation during the Iran war and everything going on looks bad. Pierre's timing to go into the U.S. and Joe seems like great in that regard. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it's as I said, I go back to how I felt yesterday. At first, I was I'm just even keel. We'll see. I'm not up, not down, just kind of But when I started seeing the reaction, it got me thinking. Wheels started turning for me when I saw the reaction. Sunasol Silver says there are a lot of Canadians that have friends down in the U.S. and listen to Joe Rogan. This is what the left in Canada fear the most. Starting a conversation, the left had a Joe Rogan. Starting a conversation, the left had a Joe Rogan. It was Joe Rogan. It's true. Absolutely true. Brad Buffalo says, thanks, Josh, for the shout out. You know it. Anytime, big dog. Anytime. It was a great reply. Deserve a shout out. Love how the media coverage will cause leftists to watch this podcast to catch Pierre slipping, quote unquote. It will be great for Pierre and Rogan. Love to see the ratings by country for this compared to average. I am curious too. I don't know if it's obviously huge to us here in Canada, in both sides of the aisle. I don't know if it's going to matter too much outside the country. So those numbers will be fascinating to watch and look at as in comparison. Lazarus says, I expect Laura Babcock, Rachel Gilmore, and CBC will all be using the crying room in CBC headquarters. Fair enough. Oh, gee, get wrecked. Just Nicole says, if you have a second, we'll love your opinion on the 12-ish minute video Ian Runkle posted on C22. Runkle of the Bailey. If you don't know him, he's an Edmonton-based lawyer. I would love to look into it because C22, I've been diving on C22 myself lately, and it's scary. Not a huge fan of it. So yeah, I'd love to look into that. Mike Stewart says Rogan is going to force Canadians' liberal problem. Rogan's going to force Canada's liberal problem into the light on the world stage. This is what we need. Yeah, it's one of those. I'm reserving judgment because I don't know. Anything could happen. We don't know. We'll find out at 1 p.m. Eastern time of what was talked about and what was discussed. I'm going to reserve judgment of what's going to look like until I actually watch the episode and what that impact could have, because that's going to be evening news tonight. Rogan episode drops at 1 p.m. Eastern time. Everyone's going to have a chance to listen to it. Evening news tonight's going to be wild. Absolutely wild. I'm actually going to make a note of that right now. People saying you need to get in touch with Ian Runkle. I'm going to make a note of that. I need to do that. See what's up. Thank you for the heads up, folks. You guys are awesome. But we move on to our next story of the day. And this is, again, goes back to, well, things to think about. Things to think about and to address. So, JP Tasker on CBC. Again, out of anyone who works in mainstream media, there's two individuals I do appreciate what they do and the work they do. JP Tasker is one of them. He typically does a fairly good job. However, this 45-second clip, I was kind of not too enthused with what he did here, and I know that mainly a lot of it is the CBC overlords. However, the details and the way they try to frame Joe Rogan is, I'm like, okay, here it goes. The smear pieces are going to begin here, folks. Listen to how CBC frames Joe Rogan's show as they prep everyone before Poilievre goes on to it.
This character, Joe Rogan, like Rachel points out, huge audience, massive reach, especially among young men in particular. But there's a lot of controversial things that have gone down on that show, right? We can remember some of the misinformation that was spread during the pandemic, a lot of talk about vaccines and some skepticism reflected on that program quite often. He's kind of led a campaign against anti-wokeness, a lot of talk about political correctness, some of the stuff that might not necessarily be, super popular in this country with a large segment of the voting population. What do you make of this decision? I mean, it's a huge gamble, right? I mean, it could be potentially very beneficial to Poilievre, maybe give him a little bit of a boost when he's been down, but, he's being associated with someone who is probably out of step with a lot of Canadian voters.
He is going on a show, somebody who is out of step with a lot of Canadian voters, and then listed all these things that allegedly were tied to Joe Rogan, and they made sure to loosely use specific terminology so they couldn't be pinned down on the falsehoods they were spreading on this situation in this circumstance. Because I know a lot of it, typically what they mean is like, vaccines, vaccinations, horse dewormer, all of that. Joe Rogan was just kind of speaking out on that issue at the time and was speaking based on medical information he received from his doctor. And then that was taken because it was against what the current narrative was, and that's what's just been used, is that, he spreads misinformation about important health information. That was a huge smear piece on Joe Rogan. CNN made sure to change Joe Rogan's complexion to make him look sickly. It was disgusting what they did to him over that. But these are the stories that they're alluding to frame this up in a specific way, to discredit the interview. And he's got to be careful. He's got to be careful. And that is fascinating because I wanted to kind of set that up because Damien Kirk, former conservative, used to be Battle Royal Crowfoot, said this just to remind people with where we're at. If that's the argument you want to make, if that's the path you want to take, it's plenty okay, CBC, if you want to take that path. But Damien Kirk says this: seeing the double standard on display, liberals and pundits are calling out Pierre Poilievre for going on Joe Rogan to promote Canadian interests. Meanwhile, Mark Carney literally launched his campaign for Prime Minister on The Daily Show, Jon Stewart, a U.S. TV show, and prefers foreign venues like Davos and The Economist for policy discussions. Pierre and the CPC, the Conservative Party of Canada, are hard at work as part of Team Canada. It's a shame the Liberals only agree with the Team Canada approach when it's them. And that's it, man. And this is where people need to be reminded of it. We need to play this little clip, remind people of Mark Carney soft launching his bid to be Prime Minister.
Up there of the overtures and sort of trolling to Canada about being a part of the United States.
Well, I mean, the bottom line is not going to happen. Due respect. The overture. I mean,
because you don't want.
Well, we're we're proud. We find you very attractive, but we're not moving in with you. It's not you. It's us.
Remember that? Jon Stewart, this was the first appearance he ever made in any media in regards to kind of soft launching his bid to be Prime Minister. Went on Jon Stewart. So JP Tasker and the mainstream media, CBC, want to go down that path. Sure, let's go down the path of controversial opinions of a host before you go on their show. If that's the standard we want to set, let's set it across the board, baby. Shall we do this? Because let's not forget, if you want to talk about COVID conspiracy theories, Joe Rogan is problematic. Let's not forget this then, okay? M. Brandt brought this up on X, dug this clip up just to remind people, be careful if you're going to go on Jon Stewart. What do you think he stands for? Let's talk about it. Let's play this for you, shall we?
What do you mean by that? Do you mean like there's a chance that this was created in a lab? There's an investigation.
A chance?
Well, if there was evidence, I'd love to hear it.
There's a novel respiratory coronavirus overtaking Wuhan, China. What do we do? Oh, you know who we could ask? The Wuhan novel respiratory coronavirus lab. The disease is the same name as the lab. That's just a little too weird, don't you think? And then they ask the scientists, they're like, how did this... So wait a minute, you work at the Wuhan respiratory coronavirus lab. How did this happen? And they're like, a pangolin kissed a turtle. And you're like, no, the name of your lab. If you look at the name, let me see your business card. Show me your business card. Oh, I work at the coronavirus lab in Wuhan. Oh, because there's a coronavirus loose in Wuhan. How did that happen? Maybe a bat flew into the cloaca of a turkey and then it sneezed into my chili and now we all have coronavirus. Like, come on. Okay.
Wait a second.
What about this? Listen to this.
Wait a second.
All right.
John.
Oh my God. There's been an outbreak of chocolatey goodness near Hershey, Pennsylvania. What do you think happened? Like, oh, I don't know. Maybe a steam shovel mated with a cocoa bean. Or it's the chocolate factory. Maybe that's it.
I had to play the whole thing out because that was actually one of the funniest rants I've seen. But let's have the standard here, folks. So Mark Carney is going to go on Jon Stewart's show. Jon Stewart can be problematic because he's promoting conspiracy theories about the origin of the coronavirus. You see how that game's played? Can go both ways. And I love the chat brought up a good point too here. Is Pierre is going on a unscripted 3-hour discussion with Joe Rogan, which most politicians avoid because it's scary. Because typically those who have something to hide aren't going to go on a podcast like that. Never. But Mark Carney made sure to go on a scripted show that had a 10-minute airtime, 15-minute airtime, whatever it was. But hey, let's get back to the point though. Joe Rogan's problematic. Oh no, that's scary. Well, Mark Carney went on Jon Stewart after Jon Stewart went on the Colbert Report and did this. You want to talk about problematic? I don't really care either way. I do not care either way. But if you want to bring up that being the standard, then let's talk about the standard, shall we? I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there, man. Oh my goodness. There's so much to go into. There's so much to talk about. But let's talk about let's hit some super chats before we go into our final story of the day. Lazarus makes a good point. It says, also, don't forget, people will clip the Rogan episode and post it everywhere as well. So it'll be seen more than just on the regular episodes. More eyes. Yes. And the Annealed Mind and Freighter RC have joined the Elevate Faithful. Boom. Let's go. This will be fun. All right. Let's go into this story, shall we? So JP Tasker was interviewing McGuinty, and we know the story. McGuinty, our defense minister, has been getting grilled, like just put over the barbecue, grilled constantly on this issue of why haven't you told anybody, or why didn't you tell anybody about the Kuwait base getting blown up that was housing Canadian military. Why are you not talking about that? Why did we have to learn about it through the media, la presse here in Canada for that to happen? Well, why? And again, this is the same response. I just want to make sure we play it so we have it on the record. I know you've heard it a billion times, but trust me, I need to play it so that we can set this up properly.
Kuwaiti base where some Canadian Armed Forces personnel were stationed. There has been some criticism of how the military handled this. Some folks are saying other countries are more transparent about this war and its risks. Your conservative defense critic says it's really shameful, frankly, that Canadians have been left in the dark about what went on in Kuwait. Will you commit to provide more transparency? Don't the people here in this country have a right to know what's going on with their armed forces?
They have a right to know as long as it has no bearing on the operational security and the security of the armed forces, women and men who may be serving in the region. I can't put these individuals at risk. And calls to put them at risk by revealing information that should not be revealed is, I think, sort of reckless. It's dangerous. And as I said just a little while ago, I really would like the leader of the official opposition, Mr. Poilievre, with all due respect to him and the role he plays, I would like him to get a top secret clearance so he can come in and get actually briefed on the situation on the ground. I think he would have a better understanding of the importance of making sure that this information is kept confidential because of the risk it might put our men and women in terms of harm's way. That's why this is my highest obligation, to make sure that these good serving members are not put in danger. And they're not. We made sure that they are safe and sound.
So there's the argument, right? There's the constant the security clearance crap that is coming out. And classic. Like, this is the recycled BS they keep trotting out there to try and end Poilievre. Hey, if you really want to know about it, if the Conservatives really want to know about this, well, their leader should get top secret security clearance. It's the only way he can do it. Here's the thing, folks, about that. And this is where it gets a little hairy. It gets a little hairy. National Post dropped an article yesterday that blew this whole narrative out of the water. Boom. A nuke, some would say. Opposition leaders want classified briefing on Iran's attack on Canadian troops as Liberals maintain secrecy. The attack went undisclosed for 11 days until it was reported last week by La Presse. Here we get this, folks. Read this out. Green Party leader Elizabeth May told the National Post the last top secret briefing she received was on foreign interference back when Justin Trudeau was still Prime Minister. Certainly, I always like having an opportunity to ask questions, May said when asked if she would take part in a briefing on the Iranian attack. I would like any opportunity again to be of service of that type of being able to look at the documents and share what I can. Interim NDP leader Don Davies, who has his top secret security clearance from his time spent serving as a member of the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians, said no one in government has offered him any briefings on the situation in the Gulf, but that he would like one. The more information, the better, Davies said. We're completely in the dark, he later added. The opposition is completely in the dark. Bloc Québécois defense critic Simon-Pierre Savard-Tremblay said in a statement that his party has received no offer for a briefing from the government on the issue. Bloc leader Yves-François Blanchet has a security clearance and could receive the briefing. While all other countries have been transparent in this regard, including Italy, whose airbase was hit in the same attack, the Liberals are choosing silence and are stubbornly refusing to answer our questions, added Savard-Tremblay. But Pierre should get a security clearance for what? For nothing. Nothing. What in God's name are we doing here? Are you kidding? You think we're stupid? Well, apparently you do. This is ridiculous. Every opposition leader's like, I received jack all on this, folks. Nothing. This is crazy. You can't write this stuff up. The security clearance crap is BS. It's nothing but a political wand to try and lay the smack down and get Pierre to shut up. Make him look like he's some type of threat to Canada. Meanwhile, still, all the opposition leaders who do have that security clearance, we haven't been told anything. We're asking for it. They don't want to give it to us. Oh my gosh. Look at how the game is played. Let's go back to the India issue with Carney, shall we? Because Carney already shot himself in the foot 5 times. He shot himself 5 times on the left foot and probably about 3.5 on the right foot. When we saw this posted weeks ago, when Mark Carney cites progress after frank discussions on India's alleged violent crime interference in Canada. Prime Minister Mark Carney suggested Wednesday that he can't share classified information about India's alleged links to ongoing violent crime and political interference in Canada, but said there was progress and frank discussions during his visit to New Delhi this week. Carney's comments come as the RCP says there is no immediate threat to public safety, even as it continues to take unspecified actions to protect South Asian communities in Canada. So Carney said it himself, I can't speak on it because of my security clearance. It's top secret here. But Pierre would know all these things if he would just get a security clearance. Reg texted me yesterday. And he was like, I think it's time, Josh. I think it's time. I was like, time for what? He's like, I think Pierre should just get a security clearance. And then anything that actually is in the best interest of Canadians, he should release it and force them to do something about it. And I said, yeah, I mean, that would be a bold move. That would be a bold move. And I could see myself leaning towards that direction until this article popped up yesterday. And I was like, okay, don't even bother at this point. This is stupid. This is stupid at this point. None of the opposition leaders got anything. And I'm sure, Liberals could easily nullify this by just telling them what's going on. And then that goes back to square one of what Pierre should do. But I just thought this was insane. And even the likes of former Trudeau staffer spoke about this weeks ago. Supriya Davidi says, LMAO, I was wondering how long it would take before the CPC picked up on this, and they're right to do so. Prime Minister Mark Carney single-handedly blew apart the argument for Poilievre needing to get his clearance when he used his own to make an excuse as to why he can't answer basic questions. And this was a former Trudeau staffer saying this. Anyone who knows anything knows what's going on right now. This is all just BS. And that's why I just want to blow this one up. This is so funny to me. So funny to me. Get wrecked. I'm not doing nothing. Get out of here. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. Again, I'm like totally just I'm giving all the red meat to Reg right now because we're going to have a lot of fun to talk tomorrow. Lighten up. We're going to have some fun discussing all of this. But this is where we're at, folks. This is how things are operating is the Liberals kind of give a really weird response to the Rogan appearance for Poilievre, which felt weird, fell flat. And then they were just recycling this security clearance BS, starting petitions and all that. And it just leave me just bewildered of why. Why? You have the argument, as I said earlier, Reg was in the general chat saying they don't really care because they're going to get a majority, so they don't care anymore. I don't know. This is telling me something different. They are doing things that's signaling to me that they do care, and that leaves me wondering because they don't need to care. They really don't need to care, but they do care. Why? Well, partially is maybe they will, likely secure a majority, but it's going to be a very weak majority. And that actually puts Carney in a more delicate position. So who knows, man? There's a lot. There's a lot happening here. We'll finish off with some super chats and call it a day. It's going to be awesome. Reg in the general chat says, bro, I can't wait. It's going to be electric, brother. You want to see that tomorrow morning? Reg will be right here across from me at 9 a.m. Eastern time. We're going to be talking about all of this, baby. We're going to have a nice, fun debate, I'm sure. It'll be awesome. Jessica says, Pierre will be speaking with reporters at 10 Eastern live. They'll definitely mention the Joe Rogan podcast. Yes, they will. I'm looking for it. It's about to go live. Whoa, they are. Shoot. I might have to hang around. Actually, no, they're always typically late to those. We'll see. I might hang around, but I do have to, we'll see. We'll see. But we continue. Lazarus says, when the NDP and Greens are saying, quote unquote, we know nothing, it just proves it's all a gag order. Yeah, true. Jay English says, what is the opposite of transparent? Liberal. Jay English coming in hot. Get wrecked. Yeah, so we'll see where this all goes, folks. This is the chat's been epic. You guys have been fantastic today. As I said, holy jumping, folks. We are maybe some moves are being made here. Moves are being made. We're at 2.8, 2.9 concurrent viewers right now. We haven't hit that height of viewership in quite some time here, folks. So thank you so much for that. That is fantastic. That is fantastic. Let's see if we can pull up the CPAC here and see what Pierre Poilievre has. Actually, it's going to be a long one, isn't it? I might probably not going to stream it here. I'm probably just going to watch this afterwards and report on it this afternoon, along with my, let's see here. Oh, this is going to be his New York address. That's what this is going to be. I'm going to have to, Oh, sorry. This is going to be before he does his New York address. This is just a press conference. Interesting. Yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll leave it there, actually. I want to extend it, but I got a hard cutoff here, and so I won't be able to. So what I'm going to do is I'll watch this. I'm going to bring this as a part of my afternoon video to this afternoon. It will be good. And you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for another great show. You guys are fantastic. And thank you so much for your support and your love. It means the world. And what was it? Miles Shields says, I'm a boomer and I watch Joe. Way to be. Way to be. Let's go, folks. Great show all around. Great show all around. Apparently, I also made a few too many mistakes as well. And I'll finish off with this. Apparently, I really ticked off YouTube. And because I was hitting that copyright material from time to time, and I was just kind of like, hey, I'll play it on the live, and then I'll just kind of mute it later. And then yesterday, YouTube wouldn't let me mute the video I played for you, and they completely demonetized my live stream yesterday. So all those ads you're watching, straight to YouTube, straight to jail, straight to jail. So I will not be playing copyright material on my live stream anymore. I've learned my lesson. I've learned my lesson. Get wrecked. Yeah, it's so funny. A lot of people are tuning in. Like, this is the thing. We've been seeing this happen throughout the week. And Reg brought this up as well. And this has kind of been the argument. And him and I are going back and forth because we're debating. We're going to try this out. Not tomorrow, but the following Friday, we're going to try this out. We're actually going to start an hour later to see how things go. Because Reg's perspective is the fact that people are just getting on the West Coast. You're going to get more people in. They're going to be awake, and we'll kind of start a bit of a later time. You'll kind of catch more people. But the issue is, I just think YouTube's notification system has changed, and people are getting notified at different times and coming in late. Because this was an issue before. This was not an issue before the YouTube algorithm changed. So we'll see where it goes. We'll see how it goes. I'm looking forward to it. Tomorrow is going to be electric. First off, we have the Joe Rogan podcast dropping this afternoon. We're going to have Pierre Poilievre doing this address in New York. We're going to have a lot of juice to talk about this afternoon. So I'll see you then. Then we'll see you tomorrow morning right here, back early, 9 a.m. Eastern time, for me and Reg to sit across from each other and debate everything I discussed today. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. So whatever it is you're doing, whether you be working the oil fields in northern Alberta or working the mines, wherever we have mines, I can't think of the location right now, or just enjoying your breakfast and enjoying your morning, whatever it is you're doing, wherever you are, have yourselves a good one. I'm out.